We're live on the Hangout. Ready for the radio.
Woo!
Thanks. Welcome to the Political Fix on this Wednesday, August 13th, 2014. I'm Heather Vale, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Jay Amernick and Rick Raddatz. Jay's a strategic planner who helps his clients create and implement plans, goals, tactics, and benchmarks. He also serves as the bridge in Nevada for Israeli companies who want to expand their businesses into the U.S., and his development labs create smartphone apps and inventions. Rick Raddatz is a serial entrepreneur and internet marketer with a degree in philosophy. His political development is called The Solution, which is to cap and prioritize government spending. I'm Heather Vale, also known as The Unwrapper. I'm a freelance journalist in all media, TV, radio, print, and online. Welcome to the show, guys. How you doing this week?
I'm very good. How are you?
Good, good. So we've actually got some cloudy weather happening lately in Las Vegas. It's a little bit different for the summertime.
It's our monsoon season.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that we get the rain in the summertime instead of the wintertime where everybody else gets it. And I see Rick. Looks like you're back home. Yeah, you're back home. You've traveled around back in Colorado. So how was your trip?
That was good. It was very relaxing. Did the whole family thing out in our family cottage, my mother-in-law's cottage, up in just north of Muskegon, Michigan.
Oh, okay. I actually went to New York for 36 hours. Well, 36 hours from the time I left Las Vegas to the time I got back to Las Vegas. So a brief whirlwind tour through New York on Sunday and Monday.
Oh, nice.
It was fun. Yeah. Got to hang out at Times Square for a few minutes. But, yeah. Yeah, well, I think I spent more time on the plane than I did doing anything. But yeah.
Have you been to New York before?
Yes, I was there 7 years ago, and I was there when I was 18. So that was
well, because sometimes you're depending on traffic, your drive into the city from the airport can be
it was 3 hours.
Longer than your flight there.
3 hours on the shuttle. I couldn't believe it. I was supposed to get to this conference thing was going until 6. My flight got in at 3:15. I thought, okay, at least I'll be able to make it by 5 and, do a couple of interviews. 6:20, I got there. Everything was shut down. It was crazy. It's like, really? 3.5 hours?
No, it's criminal. The traffic is just criminal.
Oh, it's horrible. I was so stressed just riding in the shuttle. Like, I could never drive there. I was just imagining. And people complain about Las Vegas drivers, but wow, we're spoiled here.
No.
Las Vegas drivers are awesome compared to New York, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
And compared to San Francisco. I was in San Francisco a few months ago, too, and it was really bad as well. Not as bad as New York, but way worse than Las Vegas. So, yeah.
No, Vegas.
Maybe we should do a radio show called The Traffic Fix.
Yes. I actually used to be a radio traffic reporter. I was a reporter on, over 30 stations in Canada. So, yeah, I got it down southbound here. Got a little accident, stayed to the right, heading through that area. We could do that. We could fill up a couple hours.
So Eskimos have 30 words for snow, and you have 30 words for slow. Is that how it goes?
No, probably not 30. There's probably only maybe 10 words for slow.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember them all at this point, but no, it's not as bad as sportscasting. They've got all these crazy words. So, anyway, Rick, let's get started with the solution. Tell us about the solution. Tell us about cap and prioritize.
Yes, we want to cap and prioritize government spending. The idea is very simple. We need to be fiscally sustainable at least. That requires a cap, because if we don't cap spending, government will always want to spend more than it has. That's what they do. But then once we have a cap, the only way to make that politically viable and politically sustainable is to take the money that's left and actually prioritize it, rank it from top to bottom, so the most important spending is on top. And the reason to go through all that work, especially in the social spending, is so that the people who need help most truly do get the help they need. And that's a form of competition, transparent competition. So over time, we'll learn how to help people better and better through government spending. And that's the pursuit of social justice. So thanks to cap and prioritize, we get the limits the right wants, and the pursuit of social justice the left wants. Cap and prioritize.
Okay, it's interesting. When I was in Times Square walking through, heading to the conference where I was doing interviews, there's a big LED sign that it says, here's what the government debt is, and here's your family's share. And your family's share, like all of our family's share, was $151,000.
Mm-hmm. And there are some economists who believe that is underestimating the debt incredibly, because government makes promises over a generation, Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, and so on. And so these promises are promises that our generation is making, and those promises, they add up to like 15 times that amount of money. So, and it's not clear how we can grow that fast to make up for it. So, because they're continuing to make promises faster than our economy is growing. So it actually is even worse than that.
Okay, so if we cap and prioritize, how soon can we get down to only owing $50,000 for each family?
Well, I think the important thing here isn't how much we owe. The important thing is the direction. Are we going closer to the cliff, or are we going away from the cliff? Because once we start going away from the cliff, that gives people some optimism. And when you have optimism, you invest. And when you invest, things get better faster. So I'm not actually too concerned about the amount. I'm more concerned with the direction. And the direction has to be more than just because so-and-so is in charge this year or this election cycle. If our success is dependent on who's in office, good luck, because that changes all the time. We need a system that is bigger and smarter than any one person running the system. And that's what capitalism is. I don't trust any one executive in any one company to make the right decision, but capitalism as a whole has the right incentives, and things get better over time. And through competition, products and services constantly improve. But we need the equivalent in government, and that's what cap and prioritize is all about, to make ideas compete so that they constantly improve within a reasonable budget, a fixed budget.
Okay. I don't think you're going to be able to apply that to today's top story.
Okay.
But we shall see. So, let me read the top story.
All right.
Two Hollywood legends died this week, funny man Robin Williams and screen siren Lauren Bacall. Police have now revealed that Robin Williams committed suicide by hanging himself with a belt, and the Oscar-winning actor's fans, friends, and even family continue to struggle to understand why someone who spread so much joy throughout the world could find so little in his own life that he decided to stop living. Williams made no secret of his decades-long struggles with depression and substance abuse. The star of such films as Mrs. Doubtfire, Good Will Hunting, and Good Morning Vietnam had announced only last month that he was re-entering a 12-step program to get his life back on track after months of nonstop work. His publicist confirmed after he died that he had been suffering in recent weeks from a serious case of depression. Still, even family members were caught off guard when his body was found in his San Francisco Bay Area home on Monday morning. Williams was last seen alive by his wife, Susan Schneider, who went to bed around 10 p.m. Sunday. She awoke the next morning and left the couple's home, thinking that he was asleep somewhere else in the house. When he didn't answer a knock on the door a short time later, his personal assistant found him dead in a bedroom. Lauren Bacall was the wife and co-star of Humphrey Bogart. She was also a Tony Award-winning actress, a National Book Award-winning author, a giant of fashion, a friend of the Kennedys, and one of the last survivors of Hollywood's studio age. A star almost from the moment she appeared on screen to the day she died yesterday at age 89 at a New York hospital. Her career was one of great achievement and also some frustration. She received a Golden Globe and an honorary Oscar and appeared in scores of films and TV productions, but it wasn't until 1996 that she actually received an Academy Award nomination, which she did not receive that Academy Award. After Bogart's death more than 50 years ago, she continued to forge her own distinct path. She had a brief engagement to Sinatra and a troubled 8-year marriage to Jason Robards Jr., with whom she had a son. Professionally, she thrived on the stage, and she remained busy in films as well. So, two talented people who contributed a lot to entertainment and who will live on in the hearts and minds of fans everywhere are no longer on this earth. Thoughts, Jay?
Okay.
Okay, thoughts, Rick?
Well, you challenged me before you began that can cap and prioritize be applied to this top story.
Okay.
So I just wanted to respond to that real quickly. In fact, I actually responded to it even before your story got said there, and that is that the Hollywood system is bigger than any one star. So we lose those two stars, sadly, but the system will go on.
Right.
And that's the same thing with cap and prioritize. Is that we can fight about these issues in the day, and that fight will live and die, and then there'll be another fight, there'll be another fight, there'll be another fight. But if the system rewards good ideas, and the system is guaranteed to be fiscally sustainable, the system then can survive all of us and survive all of our conflict. So that's how cap and prioritize and that top story maybe somehow possibly connect.
Okay, it's a metaphor then. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Jay, I know that you've got a background in Hollywood, so what are your thoughts?
I'll start with the obvious about Robin Williams and how incredibly sad and tragic that is. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Robin Williams once, very briefly. I was actually at I can't remember which comic relief it was, but I was there. And I was backstage. It was when I was working on The Nanny, and I was trying to get something to Fran, and she was there. She was in her dressing room, and I happened just by accident to wander into Robin Williams' dressing room.
Oops.
And so he and I had a chat, and it was very nice. But he couldn't have been more delightful. And I just I have no idea obviously how to tie this into cap and prioritize, but it's an incredible tragedy. And then Lauren Bacall, I think we're reminded sort of that the world is always in flux, and kind of there's always I hate to say that, like a changing of the guard, and kind of that old, as you mentioned, she was sort of the last of that studio contract player to pass away. And then I should also mention she's actually related to former Israeli President and Prime Minister Shimon Peres.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and then since tragically also these things happen in threes, this didn't make the news, but Arlene Martel, who's a very famous character actress from sort of the 50s and 60s, she's been on every television. She's been on The Twilight Zone, The Outer Limits, Batman, Mission Impossible. She's done a Star Trek. She's done all of them. Also passed away this week as well.
Wow.
But obviously not as big a name as Robin Williams or Lauren Bacall, but tragically these things happen in threes. So.
Yeah, interesting.
My brother Ryan Raddatz was actually one of the lead screenwriters on The Crazy Ones, which is Robin Williams' last TV show. So he's had a very recent personal connection with Robin, and he wrote a nice message about it on his Facebook post there. But I'm surprised to read in that story. You get that from the AP that the family members are struggling and surprised and shocked because because right there in the story also it mentions that he's been struggling with depression.
I think it's that
life.
family, family.
Yeah.
Knowing that a family member is struggling with depression is one thing, but when you know that and they're still jovial and they're still joking around and they're still being happy, it's not human nature to think he's going to kill himself. So it was that piece that they didn't put two and two together. They didn't think he was at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, people live for years with depression, so.
That's actually another metaphor for the state of politics, that we can live in denial, even though all the facts are right there in front of us. Our country is, if you think of our country as a brain, we're a little dysfunctional. We got some schizophrenia going on. We're hearing voices from two sides telling us to do different things, and we're not sure what to do. And we're disconnected from reality in that way. And so just to tie this back into politics, because we are the political fix. Thinking about our country as a system, as a organism, as a brain. You pick your analogy or metaphor. We can learn a lot by doing so. We can say, look, the structure of our society is missing something because we haven't found out how to structurally take care of the people who need help most, and to find that balance point between helping them and actually enabling them. Anyone who's tried to help someone with depression or alcoholism knows that there's a fine line between helping that person and enabling them, and it's not always clear what the right thing to do is. Do you give them the freedom to make choices, or do you kind of come down hard on them and don't let them even have a life? Well, when they're that close to suicide, you have to limit their choices, but how do you know? It's very hard. So we actually are struggling with the same problems in our country as the friends and family of Robin Williams are struggling with. And if our country crashes, people will say, "Oh, I couldn't believe it. Our country was doing so much better and we were fixed." No, we've never been fixed. We need that political fix.
Okay, that's a good stopping point for the break. So we'll be back in a few minutes with Jay Amernick's Inside Perspective, right back on the Political Fix. Freely speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I remember at first Robin Williams was a little freaked out that I just like wandered into his dressing room, but there was no way to tell like what was what in the setup at the Universal Amphitheater. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
Lauren Bacall was one of the few female actors who, she proved that it's okay to be strong and sexy and intelligent and beautiful. She was like, she set the standard.
And
even a lot of actresses today don't.
Jay Amernick has taken up the strong and sexy.
Oh yes. Those strong and sexy.
God Almighty.
Help us if that's the case.
The torch has passed.
Ashton Kutcher?
Oh, Ashton Kutcher?
Never.
I don't know. Who knows? I mean, it's hard to like sort of figure out what goes on between two people.
Yeah, we never see behind the scenes.
Because if it was just about looks, Richard Gere and Cindy Crawford would still be together. But there's something else going on there that sort of made both of them say, kick rocks. Some of those. Wait,
we'll cover this in the next break. Let's get back to the show.
All right.
I'm never going to recover.
Welcome back to the Political Fix. I'm Heather Vale here with Rick Raddatz and Jay Amernick. Before the break, we were talking about our top story, which is the sad news that two Hollywood legends have died, Robin Williams and Lauren Bacall. Now, Robin Williams obviously set the standard as far as comedy goes in a lot of ways. He had a unique style of comedy that other comedians maybe followed suit later, but he was kind of the first one to be so frantic and all over the place as far as what I remember. And Lauren Bacall also set the standard, as we were talking in the break. She set the standard for women to be both sexy and intelligent, beautiful and smart. So both of them made a great contribution. And Rick thinks that Jay is now the
let's not do that.
Jay is now the sexy, the epitome of sexiness. But that's up for debate.
That's not the way to say it. No.
If anyone wants to chime in on that and say what do you think Jay
on the Hangout know what really happened. I did not say that I thought Jay was the epitome of sexiness. I said Jay is now the torchbearer of strong and sexy.
And that's so much better.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? So if anyone listening wants to chime in on that and let us know whether you think Jay is the torchbearer for sexiness, give us a call at 888-627-6008.
God, be kind.
888-627-6008. And the question that we're posing is whether or not Jay Amernick is the new torchbearer for sexiness. And on that note...
Oh, my God.
Hey, Jay, Inside Perspective. Go.
Inside Perspective. So Jay Amernick hosts Inside Perspective, which is our segment on the insider view on what happens in politics, because Jay has experience working in the political system. So, Jay, take it away with your sexy inside perspective.
Thank you. Oh, my God. Was that Bob Hope? All right, Rick, you're going to both love and hate this one. Government agencies do not work as well as private sector NGOs.
No,
now, here's how. Oh no, but here's how it's going to. Here's how. No.
Jay. Let me write that one down.
That's pretty sexy.
You done?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. This is your bit here. Go.
Okay. No, that's okay. Okay. Here's where it ties into cap and prioritize. Once everything's capped, this is going to again make the government agencies really defend what they do exactly the way that private sector NGOs have to do it. So I've worked for a couple 501c3s. What you end up having to do is you actually have to defend what your organization does to the guys that are paying you, and in this case, those are your donors.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about the back of the envelope sale that you get in the mail. I'm talking about when you sit down with a guy who's going to write you a check for $25,000 or more. Those guys are, much more engaged, and they want to know exactly what you're spending the money on, how effective you are, not just what you say you do. So they want to see results and metrics and everything like that. The government, as it sits now, doesn't do that. They just say, here's our feel-good program, here's what we do, and we're going to save all the homeless people. And if you don't like it, too bad, we're going to take your tax money anyway and spend it on it. And and also we're going to say, if you don't like it, that you're somehow against homeless people, as opposed to saying, no, we're just against this particular program. We're looking for a better solution to the challenge that you have. So there you have it. Yes.
Now, Jay, I don't find anything to hate in what you said. So why did you think I would love and hate it? Because I love it.
Because I thought that okay. So I guess I'll put a slightly finer point on it, and maybe I'm wrong about you hating this too. So I'll have to work harder next week. Okay. So that again, it's the government agencies are again going to really have to focus on being effective. Mm-hmm. And as you suggested, and not just being effective, but deciding on what the government should be doing as opposed to the private sector. As far as a charity, as far as an NGO, as far as a 501c3.
Okay, so the thing I completely disagree with you about, Jay, is about me disagreeing with you or hating anything you said. I thought everything was okay, except for that first part. Except for the part about me loving it and hating it. I just love it. I love what you said.
Okay, well, maybe that's why I threw that in there, just so you would disagree with
something. Okay, yeah, there
we
go.
Okay. Yeah, good game plan.
I didn't know because I knew.
So you're completely wrong about me thinking you'd be completely wrong about anything, except for.
Okay, very good.
But that means you're right. So I don't know.
Okay.
We have one of those little logic loops here.
Well, no, and ultimately, and then also once cap and prioritize is in place, it will give you, the average citizen, more money to do with what you want as far as what NGOs you donate or don't donate to.
Yeah, that's true.
Thus all the world's problems get solved.
So to help listeners understand that very important point there, let's just talk about social spending. All the government programs are designed to help people. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the 50 or more means-tested programs that are out there and everything else. Okay, let's say we cap that whole budget by population plus inflation, meaning that every year spending can go up a little bit along with population and also inflation. That would keep the purchasing power of social spending the same over time. So we can always help people as good as we're helping them right now. But the economy grows faster, so taxes can go down, and through prioritizing, we're finding better ways of using that purchasing power So we're actually improving government effectiveness as we're lowering taxes. So that's the ideal balance point here, cap and prioritize, where you as an individual have more free money to do whatever you want, charity or personal success-related efforts, and the government will still have that money that they have, the purchasing power, and they'll find better and better ways of using it. And that's where the system as a whole discovers what's best done in the free market and what's best done in this cap and prioritize market. They're both marketplaces. Capitalism is a marketplace where individuals compete. Cap and prioritize is a marketplace where ideas for government spending compete. And the ideas that the free market can do best, they'll get pushed off the budget for government and then to go into the free market. And the things that the government can do best, like focusing like a laser on those who need help most through prioritizing, those are the people that will get help by government money. Yeah, so I love your inside perspective.
Oh, thank you. Well, wait till next week.
Okay.
You're going to have to work a little harder there, Jay, to find something that Rick doesn't like.
Well, no. Now that I've decided to listen to Rick and tie it into cap and prioritize, there will be much more agreement.
Yeah, I think there will be, and so I'll have to start disagreeing with you on the details. But that's progress.
Yes.
See, a lot of people think that the details kill, an idea, a good idea, because the devil's in the details.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some problems where it's just the opposite, where as long as you get the big things right, the rest is details. We'll figure that out later on. Let's get the big stuff right. And cap and prioritize is one of those things, where a good example would be property rights in capitalism. Property rights is one of those big decisions you make. Yes, we're going to have property rights in our country, because not every country has property rights. But as long as you have property rights, you can disagree on what they are. I mean, we're always going to disagree about what property rights are. But let's all agree to have property rights, because not having property rights, wow, that's scary. So, capping spending right now is something we all disagree on, because the right really wants it, the moderate right kind of wants it, the moderates and the left probably don't want it. They're afraid of it. But cap plus prioritize together, we can start to agree that we can start to see how this all works together, and then we can start to finally agree on the big picture, cap and prioritize. And we'll disagree about what the priorities are, we'll disagree about how to prioritize, we'll disagree about what the cap should be, but those are all details. Let's all agree to cap and prioritize in some sense, and then it'll happen in some sense, and then we can constantly improve it through arguing about details.
And how will you know when we all agree to cap and prioritize? When the whole country agrees, how are you going to know that?
Well, it's kind of like look at the progress of some of the other issues we've dealt with as a country that take generations, like racism. Okay, back when there's slavery going on, and it's predominantly, not exclusively, but predominantly African American slavery. We can talk about racism being at like 100%. And although you can't really, because a lot of people disagree with that. A lot of states disagree with it.
Mm-hmm.
And but we fought the Civil War, but we still have racism. But generation by generation, it gets better. Does it still exist? Of course. Okay, people generalize all the time, and that's always going to happen. So there'll always be some degree of racism, but it's a whole lot better than it was before. And at some point, you get to the point where you say, look, there's bigger issues. There's bigger issues now than racism, and for a long time you couldn't say that. That was one of the big issues. So right now it's one of the big issues. How do we cap and prioritize government spending, or do we? A couple generations from now, that will be the big issue. It'll be something else. It'll be should we allow artificial intelligence research to continue? Should we allow nanobot research to continue? Because those will be things that can destroy the human race if we don't get a handle on it. And or environmental issues also could be the big issues of a future generation.
Okay, but I don't think anybody knows that cap and prioritize is the critical issue right now. They're more likely to say, no, it is the environment, or it is any number of different things. No,
if you look at what people think are the top issues, more people think that our government going crazy on spending and just out of control in general is like the #1 security issue versus a foreign power. Okay, so I'm not going to say it's the #1 issue. That changes from news cycle to news cycle, but how government is organized, what the tax rates are, What is spending the money on? Those are always among the top issues, and it directly affects our economy. So I agree with you that people aren't thinking about cap and prioritize as a combination, as a solution yet. We're just starting that right now here on this radio show, but everything they're talking about connects directly to it, and so that it gets to the heart of what today's big divide is.
Okay. All right, let's continue this discussion in a few minutes. We're going to take a quick break now, and we'll be right back with you on the Political Fix. Okay,
all right.
Speaking freely.
Go Heather.
Yeah, the light's better. Look at that. All right, I got to do that.
Yeah, that's better.
Oh, did you turn your desk lamp towards you?
Yeah.
He just turned it on.
Okay.
Yeah. On and toward.
It looks a lot better.
Yeah.
So sexy votes will come in very shortly then.
Looking pretty sexy there, Jay.
Oh God, let's talk about something else. For God's sakes. Yeah.
Maybe not.
All right, I'm putting it out there.
Jay, are you married?
No, divorced.
No. Okay.
Jay can't even figure out if he wants to date women. He just keeps throwing his hands in the air and saying, "Screw this."
Literally. Stop.
No. That's the part that you didn't do. Well, maybe.
Is that
all right?
That you walk into a bar and say, "Screw this"?
That might work, That might work. You probably have some woman come after you. Are we ready to go back? Yeah, exactly. Okay, we're ready.
I could do better though.
Welcome back to the Political Fix. I'm Heather Vale here with Rick Raddatz and Jay Amernick, my co-hosts. If you want to join in the conversation, have your say, let us know whether you think Jay is the torchbearer for sexiness, give us a call at 888-627-6008. That's 1-888-627-6008.
Wait. All this flirting between Heather and Jay here.
This isn't flirting.
This isn't flirting.
I think we should have a new segment called the dating game.
This is not flirting.
Maybe the Jay Fix. And we'll take all the revenue that the show gets, and we'll use it to pay for a date for you two, and then next week you can tell us about your date.
No,
Heather has been a somewhat effective wing woman for me.
Yes, I'm Jay's wing woman. He was my wingman.
That's how it starts.
No, he knows my guy.
Yeah, I was a big proponent
He was actually instrumental. He was the head cheerleader for my
And we actually had to employ cap and prioritize in order for it to happen.
all I'm saying is you're entire sitcom based on this type of denial that you guys are experiencing right now. I'm just saying that.
All right, stop it.
No, Jay's firmly in the friend zone, and I'm firmly in his friend zone. However, that was really funny, Jay. Yes, we had to cap and prioritize.
We did.
The men that I was dating in order to whittle it down to yes. Jay helped me choose the priority. Yes. And on that note.
Oh dear God.
So before the break, we were talking about Jay's inside perspective, which Rick actually agreed with, and he said that government agencies were not as effective as private sector NGOs. Did you guys have anything more to say? I kind of took us to break in the middle of that. I don't know if...
No.
Jay, could you define for our listeners what an NGO actually is?
An NGO is a non-governmental organization.
So which is everything but the government.
No, but technically involved in some kind of, I don't want to say advocacy, but it could be advocacy. It could be education. It could be charity. Some kind of good works is what an NGO is.
So, are all nonprofits NGOs, or only nonprofits that are working with the government?
No, technically, no. Technically, they don't have to work with the government at all to be an NGO.
Okay.
It's and they are not necessarily a 501c3. They can be a 501c4. They can be a 501. There are a bunch of other ones, I only know what like 3 of them do.
Okay. So I'm going to add something new to the discussion here. I'm going to propose something to you and see if you agree with me. I'm going to say that right now the way our government is structured, it is correct that these independent NGOs, non-governmental organizations, nonprofits, are going to be more efficient and effective at whatever their mission is than the equivalent in the government, if there even is an equivalent. However, I'm going to say that under a capped and prioritized government, okay, once we figure it out, like 100 years after we figured it out, when we really got things going, and ideas have been competing for a while within government, well, my guess is that these two things will kind of merge in a little bit, in that the priority marketplace that I'm imagining that government will become, where ideas are competing for priority in this prioritized budget. Well, a lot of those ideas will be about funding certain NGOs with certain missions, because this NGO is doing good work, and NGOs will start competing with each other for essentially these government grants. And but they gotta produce results. You gotta help the homeless. Gotta do this. And so what we're essentially doing is creating a marketplace for nonprofit type work, the kind of work that we want to help people need help most. And that actually puts, if you think about the trillions that are spent on social spending through government action, and the size of the charity marketplace, which is I think a lot less, isn't it? What we're talking about here is a dramatic expansion of the charitable part of society, the desire to help people who need help most, and as well as theoretically improvement in efficiency. And my last point on this, the one thing that NGOs cannot do right now, and they won't ever be able to do as NGOs, is to work together in some way to come up with like national priorities. But that's what cap and prioritize can do, because it will be getting a sense of our national priorities as we argue the priority battle in this prioritized budget.
They can attempt to do that in the form of advocacy and lobbying, and creating creating awareness. I hate that term, but they can do that. But I agree with you that ultimately this is creating that marketplace, and I think one of the challenges now is so many people aren't involved in charity because they say let the government take care of it. But if we get to a point where the government doesn't take care of it, because in general what happens, and especially in America, is that when there's a need and the government doesn't do it, for instance, the people come together and form a charity. Something needs to happen for this, right? There's food banks. There are homeless shelters that are all, sometimes they receive some government grants, but in general they operate off of donor funds. So we do come together as a society to try to fix these things.
Yeah, but
it will happen more so once cap and prioritize becomes a reality. That's where I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, yeah, I think we agree there. But I'm going one step further in saying that. See, the reason I'm saying this is because a lot of people on the far right, the libertarian right, are going to argue that the incentives in government are so perverse that we just have to have small government, the smallest possible government. Maybe it builds roads, maybe it doesn't even do that. Okay, that's what some people are saying. And to argue against that point of view, my argument is that, yeah, the way government's designed right now, the incentives that are in government right now, that's true. But once we fix the incentives, then government can become the most effective charity funding organization in the world. Okay,
right.
So essentially, what I'm saying is, collectively, it can be the best charity in town. And once it earns that position, then we will be able to make decisions like, hey, I want to raise taxes. Even on me, because the government's doing a great job. I want more government, okay, because it's finally doing good. Right now, the way it is, I want less government, okay?
Right.
What I really want is better government, where it spends less and spends better. And that, by the way, is the mantra for cap and prioritize. The cap is about spending less than we would otherwise. The prioritizing is about spending better than we would otherwise. So it's spend less, spend better is the core message. And but I don't think NGOs alone can ever say this is what our national priorities are. Because to do so, they'd have to have a committee that gets elected and debates and prioritizes. Well, that's Congress.
Well,
That's what Congress should be doing.
Well, no. The priorities get decided by the people who donate. If people don't donate and they don't make the case for their organization's mission, then they go kablooey because there's no money to run it.
Doesn't that sound a little sketchy? Like,
why?
People can just come in and give an organization money and say, go do this for me because I just gave you money?
Well, how's that sketchy? That's how all charity works.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Sure.
Well, it has to be within what the charity's mandated. It has to be within what the charity's doing. Like, you can't just walk into a charity and say, I'm giving you money, go do this.
Right. Okay. And a lot of times, a charity will lose a rather large donor because the large donor comes in and says, I want you to do X, Y, Z, and they say that is not our mission.
Right. Yeah.
And then he takes his dodgeball home.
It's all a voluntary transaction. So the charity can decide, yeah, we will do what you asked, Mr. Big Donor, or no, that's against our core principles. So we have to go different ways. And people, they make the decision all the time in charities. The bigger the charity, the more kind of the system has some momentum, and no one donor can have influence. The smaller the charity, any donor comes along that was going to double your budget. Yeah, well, we'll double your budget, but half of that doubling I want to go towards this hospital wing. Say, okay, well, we'll do the hospital wing and we'll name it after you. And they wouldn't have done it otherwise, but they wouldn't have gotten the other money either. So it's all voluntary.
Yeah, and again, it's up to the charity to do so. And by the way, they may by doing the hospital wing may anger many other donors who decide, you know what, this is mission creep, we're not into it, and we're out.
Yeah.
And that happens too. I've seen pretty much all of it. When you either deviate from your mission or you don't deviate from your mission, you lose money. But that's not what you were set up to do.
Well, but my point against what Heather was saying, I think, is that, or maybe it's you, Jay, I'm not sure. I disagree with one of you. My point is that a nonprofit might try to help the homeless, for example, but it doesn't know when to stop helping the homeless, okay? Because it's not competing in this national prioritizing system, cap and prioritize.
Okay, but most nonprofits have a system in place to not just be giving handouts after handouts after handouts. They have a system in place to elevate the people they're helping to a new level so they no longer have to help them anymore, and that is cap and prioritize.
Right, and if that particular organization doesn't do so well, another one, trust me, will come along and do it better and end up stealing those donors from the first organization.
Well, any one charity clearly has a capped budget. They have their budget for this year, and clearly then they're going to prioritize, as best they can. And different NGOs do different ways. The United Way, for example, is a federalized charity network where money gets donated at whatever level, but most of it funnels up to the national level. The national level, they actually judge the results of all of their member organizations, and they prioritize who gets how much money. And so actually the United Way is a living, breathing model for this cap and prioritize idea. It's just not being done at the federal level. Let's take this idea that does work, apply it to the federal level of spending, where now we're talking about trillions, not a billion or so. I don't know what the United Way budget is. But then we can get a sense of national priorities that we can't get except for little blips of success, like with United Way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, our final break of the day, and when we come back, we'll have Rick's rant. So we'll be right back with you in a few minutes on the Political Fix.
All right.
All right.
Speaking freely. It's getting to the point where I forget what we've actually said on the air just on the Hangout.
Well, back to Robin Williams. When I worked as a professional clown, the guy who recruited me into that lifestyle, he was telling me that all the comics that he knows, the professional clowns he knows, the really famous ones, and comedians, they go on stage and they're full of energy and they're getting that high, that they're addicted to that moment in time on stage, but nature is what it is, and so you get off that stage, you lose that high, you lose all of that, and you hit a low. And he actually used Robin Williams as an example when he told me that. This is back in 1989 or so, 1990. And he actually used Robin Williams as an example where he can't imagine the lows that Robin Williams must hit after being so manic and frantic and accessing that creativity on stage.
Well, part of it, too, is a lot of performers are actually introverts, so they put all their energy into the performance, but then they have to recharge afterwards, and so the low is actually, it's built into them biologically, their need to get away from it and recharge.
Right. Well, I believe so.
Yeah, it wasn't
problems. Yeah. Well, also, a lot of it is, when you're on stage like that, it's also a lot like flexing a muscle. And it's like constantly flexed. So the second you get off stage, I've seen guys like completely deflate.
Yeah.
Like their face changes, everything changes, and it's part chemical. Well, yeah, but it's part chemical. It's losing that adrenaline. It's all that, and the next thing, then they're just sort of back to, Yeah,
it's a hard lifestyle.
Yeah. Plus they have to focus so much when they're on stage because that's where, think of it as like a surgeon, when he's literally in the theater performing surgery. Yeah. There's no room for mistakes. There's no room, to sort of let the problems of the day wash in. That's got to be 100%. And it's the same thing. Although the consequences aren't as dire on stage, but it's the same attitude.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're ready.
Good.
Welcome back to The Political Fix. I'm Heather Vale, and I'm here with my co-hosts Rick Raddatz and Jay Amernick. Before the break, we were talking about NGOs and their effectiveness at capping and prioritizing. Now we get to the fun portion of the show. Actually, this whole show has been fun today, but I am still looking forward to what we affectionately call Rick's Rant. This is our outsider perspective because Jay Amernick already provided the inside perspective. Rick's Rant is the outside perspective. Rick has nothing to do with politics whatsoever, except that he has come up with this solution about capping and prioritizing government spending. So let's have Rick's Rant.
Well, thanks for that intro, Heather. Okay, Rick's Rant. I'm going to rant about two things today, and that is when someone hears a good idea, a really good idea, there's often two reactions, okay? Two reactions to it, assuming the person agrees it's a good idea. One reaction is that people think it's never going to happen because government doesn't care about good ideas or whatever. So they think of it as idealistic, like, oh yeah, good luck with that, okay, because it's a good idea. And the other response often is people get stuck in the details. We talked about this early in the show, which is what made me think about this, is that they can't believe, like, if something seems like a good idea, it must be because we haven't thought about it enough. If only we think about it a little bit more, we'll get to all the details, and it'll be proven to be a stupid, bad idea, because the devil's in the details. And you know what? The reason we think that, the reason we have these two reactions is because most of the time, one or the other or both is correct. Okay? So it's reasonable to have these reactions. So I'm not ranting against people in this case. I'm just kind of ranting against the universe. It's reasonable to discount good ideas and say, good luck with that. It's reasonable to discount good ideas and say, that you haven't thought through all the details yet. But every now and then, every couple hundred years, political philosophers have something important to say, and like I say, this is one of those years. Cap and prioritize is the peer of capitalism, the peer of democracy, the peer of diplomacy and defense. We are economizing our collective resources, the same way that capitalism economizes private resources, the same way that democracy economizes political resources, the same way that diplomacy and defense economizes foreign resources, the same way that cap and trade economizes future resources. Here we are economizing, or trying to economize collective resources or public resources. That's what we're talking about here. And we can disagree in the details. We can disagree on all the details forever, and it's still worth doing something, because we need some kind of cap, and we need some kind of prioritizing. And let's worry about the details later on. Let's acknowledge that this is not just a good idea. This is a system that rewards good ideas. It makes good ideas politically viable. So if you're one of those people who complains that good ideas don't matter in Washington, that's right. That's why we need cap and prioritize, so good ideas will matter in Washington. And if you're one of the people that loves to argue about details, great. You will still be able to argue about details. That's my rant.
Okay, well, so we have something for everybody.
Yeah.
Just jump on board, cap and prioritize, and no matter what your neuroses are, we can help you out. Yeah.
More importantly, I think that today is the day where Rick Raddatz has now declared war on the universe.
Yes, you cannot rant against the universe. What you resist persists. That was.
Well, okay, there you go. Argue about details again. See, you're. Okay.
Right,
okay, look, let me be more precise, okay? To be more precise, the universe has a set of natural laws, and they're called pentonomics, okay? Those are the 5 economies I just mentioned. The resources exist whether we like it or not, just because we exist. The dangers exist whether we like it or not, just because the resources exist. The benefits exist if we do the right thing, if we cap and prioritize, if we cap and compete, cap and pander, and all these other economies. So, natural law is what it is. So you're right. And to be more precise, I'm ranting against humans fighting against the universe. But I just slightly misstated it, and you caught that. And yet your resistance there on the detail, that's the rant. That's what I was ranting about. Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, and also one of the other things I find interesting, sort of, just from to be academic about it, is why people sometimes think those things that you suggest, and sometimes it's because of their own insecurities, and sometimes it's sort of they're thinking, okay, actually in reality this is a good idea, but what's in it for me? So if there's nothing in it for me, I actually experienced that with some of the things that I've tried to bring here to Nevada, and some of the politicians. Well, it'll never happen, and when I looked at it further, when I sat back, it's like, oh, that's because I didn't grease the palms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were looking for a little, I don't want to mention names, but yeah.
So money talks.
Wait. Are you saying that there's corruption in politics? I'm shocked.
No, this was attempted corruption.
Well, still, whether it's attempted or not, whether you accepted it or not, it's still corruption.
It was not. No, it was. It was shocked. Shocked to find there's gambling going on here.
Jay, don't name names.
Okay.
But help go into more detail here if you could, because detail's important.
Because
yes. Okay. No. It was a simple. When
I like to know more about how were they hinting to you that
it's what I deduced. Because what I found interesting, and it's not, and this isn't all politicians. I met initially with one member of Congress about when I first started working on the idea of bringing Israeli tech companies here, and this member of Congress said, "Never going to happen because of A, B, and C." And so, being the cockeyed optimist I was, I walked away from the meeting and moved on. And then when I got to thinking about it, a little bit later, it was literally like, because. And I heard things like, oh, well, we don't have the money to fund it, blah, blah, blah. And next thing I know, that individual is funding something else. I find out that's because that individual, the person doing it, was getting a great deal from that project. Whether it was hiring the cousin to work on it, whether it was contracting the aunt to do this and that and the other thing on it, or whether this individual was just a large donor to this member of Congress's campaign. And inversely, I met with other members of Congress who basically said, love the idea, who can I introduce you to? So it's not, again, it's not across the board, but you have to look at sometimes why they're saying it's not a good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
So and I won't name names, but
Okay.
Sorry.
Not that we would know who the people are necessarily.
Yes, you would.
Oh, okay. So is this how a lot of stuff gets passed? They just slide a little
No. This was on a local level. You're talking about like on a federal level and then voting on a bill or things like that. No, that's actually, believe it or not, a much it's a dirtier and cleaner process all at the same time, which is a much larger discussion.
This is actually a really good point here, is that a lot of people, especially on the political right, want to push decisions to lower levels of government because they have this theory that the bigger the money gets, the more corruption there is. And I agree with you that it's kind of a mixed bag, because there actually is a lot of transparency in the national level that forces good things to happen or just things to not happen, grind to a halt. That at the local level, Fred knows the owner of the construction company, Barney, and they do a deal, and Fred helps Barney, and then Barney helps Fred with political donations and so on, and it doesn't have to be spoken because they're friends, they know each other. And you're not going to have ABC News in monitoring that because they can't. It's too low of a level. The way the cap and prioritize handles this, especially in like social spending, is that we're kind of split the difference here. We propose that with social spending that the states get the money from the federal government to help people in their state. So that pushes it down a level. But we're going to add more transparency. By prioritizing, that transparency is going to make sure that the money is spent well, because it's easier for news organizations and watchdog organizations to, and even each other, we're going to force government programs to fight each other. Because if your government program is lower down on the priority list, you're going to be exposing fraud you see higher up, and you're going to be showcasing all the good work you've done. We're going to create all this transparency that will help make sure that that trap doesn't happen at this more local level.
Okay.
No, that's absolutely right, and that goes back to sort of creating that marketplace that sort of we both talked about in our segments earlier.
There is just so much alignment on this show today.
I know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually one of the things that Cap and Prioritize does. As soon as you start thinking in terms of everything as how it relates to Cap and Prioritize, you start to see this kind of alignment. I look at it as you either have a 3-pillar model of government or a 5-pillar model of government. The 3-pillar model of government is where you think that all that exists in society in terms of these big systems is capitalism, democracy, and defense. Okay? And if everything is capitalism, democracy, and defense, then you got to fight for control of democracy to turn democracy and capitalism and even defense to the left or to the right to make it do whatever you want it to do. And so you got to have a fight. But if you have a 5-pillar model of society where you know that government spending needs to be capped and prioritized, and that globally our use of resources has to be capped and traded so that we're sustainable, then you have a 5-pillar model of society, and suddenly every problem that you bring up can fit into one of these 5 pillars, and it might not be easy to do, but you know where to put the problem, and you start to get alignment. So I'm thinking of starting something called the 5-pillar society or the 5-solution society that says, look, the people here in this group, we are looking at the world through these 5 pillars, these 5 economies, and everyone else, left, right, and center, is missing the boat. They're thinking of the world through 3 economies or 3 pillars, 3 solutions, and that's why there's conflict. So that's kind of where I'm thinking about with this idea.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Okay, so we've reached the end of the show. We will be back next week with another scintillating show. In the meantime, check us out at politicalfixradio.com. Check out our archives. Video and audio are there. And on behalf of myself, Rick Raddatz, and Jay Amernick, we hope you have a fabulous week, and we'll see you next week on The Political Fix.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. All right.
Okay.
This is Jay. Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be delighted to talk to her.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that.
Thanks, Doug. Have a good week.
Okay, guys,
All
I
right.
have to run across town for a lunch meeting.
Okay.
Actually related to the founding of the 5 Solution Societies. So I will see you next week.
All right, and
All
we're
right.
going to sign off the Hangout now. Thanks, guys, for watching. Jay, you have anything to say to the viewers?
No, thanks for watching. Goodbye, Hangout.
Bye-bye, Hangout.